Robert Kiyosaki grew up with two father figures. His biological father, highly educated with a good, stable job, struggled financially his entire life. His best friend's father, who never finished 8th grade, became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. Kiyosaki calls them his poor dad and his rich dad, and the contrast between how these two men thought about money became the foundation for one of the best-selling personal finance books of all time. This isn't a book about complicated investment strategies. It's about mindset, the fundamental beliefs about money that most of us are never taught in school, and how those beliefs quietly determine whether we build wealth or spend our lives working for it. Let's break down the core lessons. Lesson 1. The rich don't work for money. Kiyosaki's poor dad believed in the traditional path: study hard, get a good job, work for a paycheck. His rich dad believed something very different, that the poor and the middle class work for money, while the rich have money work for them. As a boy, Kiyosaki asked Rich Dad to teach him how to get rich. Instead of a lecture, Rich Dad put him to work for 10 cents an hour, then, after a few weeks, refused to raise his pay, deliberately trying to provoke frustration. The lesson wasn't about the wage. It was to show Kiyosaki that most people spend their entire lives angry at their job or their boss, without ever stepping back to ask a bigger question: how do I make money work for me instead of trading my time for it forever? Lesson 2. Why teach financial literacy? This is arguably the most famous concept in the entire book: the difference between an asset and a liability. Kiyosaki defines it simply: an asset puts money in your pocket, and a liability takes money out of your pocket, regardless of what conventional wisdom calls it. Many people consider their house an asset, but if it comes with a mortgage, taxes, and maintenance costs, and doesn't generate income, Kiyosaki argues it's actually a liability. The rich, he says, spend their lives acquiring real assets like rental properties, businesses, stocks, and royalty-generating creations, while the poor and middle class accumulate liabilities they mistakenly believe are assets, like expensive cars, oversized homes, and consumer debt. Financial literacy, in Kiyosaki's view, means understanding this distinction well enough to make it the compass for every major financial decision you make. Lesson 3. Mind your own business. Kiyosaki draws a distinction between your profession and your business. Your profession is how you earn income, the job title on your paycheck. Your business is the column of income-generating assets you're building on the side, regardless of what your day job happens to be. He argues that most people spend their entire careers building someone else's business, their employer's business, while neglecting to build their own asset column at all. His advice is to keep your day job if needed for stability, but consistently direct a portion of your income and energy towards acquiring or building real assets, so that over time your own business, not your employer, becomes your true source of wealth. Lesson 4. The history of taxes and corporations. Here, Kiyosaki explains why the wealthy often pay a smaller percentage of their income in taxes than employees do, despite earning far more. The answer, he says, lies in understanding how corporations work. Employees typically earn money, then pay taxes on it, then spend whatever is left. Business owners and investors, using the structure of a corporation, can often spend money on legitimate business expenses first and only pay taxes on what remains. Kiyosaki isn't advocating for illegal tax evasion. He's pointing out that understanding the legal rules of the financial game, rules that are publicly available but rarely taught, gives people access to advantages that most employees never learn to use. Lesson 5. The rich invent money. Kiyosaki challenges the idea that financial security comes from job stability or a steady paycheck. He argues that real security comes from financial intelligence, the ability to recognize and create opportunities that others walk right past. He shares examples from his own life, including buying undervalued real estate that others dismissed and structuring deals creatively rather than relying purely on having large amounts of cash up front. His broader point is that opportunities to build wealth are constantly appearing around us, but most people are trained to see only risk and reasons to say no, rather than developing the confidence and knowledge to say yes. Lesson 6. Work to learn, don't work for money. Kiyosaki encourages readers, especially early in their careers, to choose jobs and experiences based on what skills they'll gain, not simply which position pays the most immediately. He specifically highlights the value of learning sales, marketing, communication, and leadership skills, arguing that these abilities compound in value over an entire career and are often more useful long-term than a slightly higher starting salary. In his view, chasing short-term income at the expense of long-term skill building is one of the most common financial mistakes people make early in life. Overcoming the obstacles. Kiyosaki spends a significant portion of the book addressing why, even after understanding these lessons, so many people never actually apply them. He identifies 5 main obstacles: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. Fear of losing money keeps people from ever taking a calculated risk. Cynicism, doubt, and excuse-making talks people out of opportunities before they even try. Laziness disguises itself as being too busy to learn new financial skills. Bad habits, particularly around spending before saving or investing, quietly undermine wealth building over years. And arrogance, assuming you already know enough, prevents people from continuing to learn. Kiyosaki argues that overcoming these obstacles requires ongoing self-awareness, since they tend to resurface throughout life, not just at the beginning. The cash flow quadrant. Though developed more fully in his later work, Kiyosaki introduces the seed of an idea in this book that there are fundamentally different ways people generate income. Employees trade time directly for a paycheck. Self-employed individuals own a job, but the business still depends entirely on them personally. Business owners build systems and teams that generate income independent of their own daily labor. And investors put money into assets that generate returns without requiring their direct time at all. Kiyosaki's core argument is that true financial freedom becomes possible only when a person shifts, at least in part, towards the business owner and investor sides of this framework, rather than relying solely on trading personal time for money. Conclusion. At its core, Rich Dad, Poor Dad isn't really about real estate or the stock market. It's about rewiring how you think about money. Kiyosaki's central message is that financial education, understanding assets versus liabilities, building your own business alongside your job, and continuously learning matters far more than how much money you currently earn. Whether or not you agree with every strategy in the book, its lasting influence comes from a simple but often overlooked idea. Your beliefs about money, formed early and rarely questioned, quietly shape your entire financial future. If this summary was helpful, let me know in the comments which lessons stood out to you the most. And if you enjoy deep dive book breakdowns like this, make sure to subscribe.